Autumn, or fall, is a season of change. The hot days of summer are ending, and it's time for people, plants, and animals to get ready for the colder months ahead. During autumn, tree leaves will turn brilliant colors, then flutter to the ground. Millions of birds will migrate to warmer climates. Farmers will harvest golden, ripe crops. And all the while, days will grow colder and nights longer. Above the equator, in the northern hemisphere, autumn officially begins around September 22nd. We sometimes call the first day of autumn the September or autumnal equinox. Equinox means equal day and night. On the first official day of autumn, there are 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. Day and night are equal. However, south of the equator, the September equinox marks the first day of spring. In the southern half, or hemisphere of the world, the seasons are opposite the northern hemispheres. Spring is fall, summer is winter, and so on. Wherever you live, unless it's near the equator, during your autumn, days get shorter and nights longer. Every day the sun will rise later and set earlier than on the day before. How much shorter each day becomes varies according to the date and the latitude. Latitude is a measure of distance north or south from the equator. Latitude is measured in degrees, which are fractions of a circle. There are 360 degrees in a circle. On the Earth's surface, 1 degree of latitude is about 68 miles. The equator is 0 degrees of latitude. The poles are at 90 degrees. Midway between the equator and the poles, the latitude is 45 degrees. Here, on the first day of November, daylight decreases about 4 minutes from the day before. Farther from the equator, there is even more difference. At the Arctic Circle, which is at about 67 degrees, daylight decreases by 12 minutes. In just 5 days, another whole hour of daylight will be lost. Why do daylight hours grow shorter in autumn? To help understand, let's look at the Earth's relation to the Sun. We know the Earth orbits around the Sun once a year. We also know the Earth rotates on its axis once every 24 hours to give us day and night. The Earth's axis is an imaginary line stretching between the north and south poles and acts like an axle for a wheel. Surprisingly, the Earth's axis is not straight up and down when compared to the Earth's orbit around the Sun, but tilts 23.5 degrees. When the Earth is over here, in summer, the North Pole leans towards the Sun. Now the North Pole has 24 hours of daylight. 6 months later, when the Earth has moved to the other side of the Sun, the North Pole leans away from the Sun. Now the North Pole is dark, cold, and wintry. Equinoxes occur halfway between these summer and winter positions. The poles still point to the same places in space, but neither pole leans directly away or toward the sun. On the equinoxes, everywhere on Earth has 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. After the autumnal equinox, as the Earth continues its orbit, the North Pole angles farther away from the sun. This means daylight hours grow shorter. With decreasing sunlight, less heat and light energy is available to plants and animals. Many of them have to adjust to this loss of energy. One of the most noticeable and prettiest changes in autumn occurs with deciduous trees. The primary job of tree leaves is to make food for the tree. But to make food, the leaves need sunlight. In autumn, less than half of the day has daylight. Plus, the weather is getting cold. So the deciduous leaves can no longer make much food, and the trees drop them. The process of dropping leaves begins when trees react to the short daylight hours and grow little walls of cork between twigs and leaves. These walls stop the exchange of nutrients and water between the tree and the leaf. Gradually, the leaf stops making chlorophyll, which is a special chemical that helps leaves produce food and colors the plants green. When the chlorophyll is gone, other colors that have always been there but had been covered by chlorophyll now become visible, and we see bright yellow, red, and gold. Soon the leaves fall. By the end of autumn, most deciduous trees are bare. Now the trees are dormant, or in sort of a deep sleep for the winter. Birds that migrate also react to the shortening hours of daylight. The change in daylight triggers their mysterious urge or instinct to fly towards the equator. Many migrants fly only far enough to find food and tolerable weather. But in others, the urge to migrate takes them thousands of miles beyond the equator. There, during their former home's winter, these long-distance migrants get to enjoy another summer. Even some mammals, such as caribou, migrate in autumn. As with birds, shortening daylight hours help warn them about the season's change. Caribou may cross hundreds of miles of tundra to reach milder wintering grounds. Other mammals prepare for winter in other ways. During early fall, bears, groundhogs, and other hibernators become super hungry. They put on lots of extra fat, which is a way of storing energy. Shortly before going into hibernation, they become sluggish and sleepy. During winter's long sleep, they use their fat as their source of energy for life. The gray squirrel buries acorns and other nuts. They may bury hundreds of them during the season. So probably, when hungry in winter, the squirrel has to use its nose rather than its memory to find the carefully hidden treasures. The chipmunk hides food for winter in another way. The little ground squirrel carries acorns in cheek pouches into an underground chamber. Here the chipmunk will spend the cold months, mostly asleep. But once in a while, it will awake to eat a midwinter snack. People also store food in fall, in a way, like chipmunks. We harvest corn, wheat, potatoes, and other crops. Most of the harvest is put into large storage silos. The stored food is taken from the silos as needed. Farmers grow enough food in summer to last until the new crop is harvested next year. Fall has long been the traditional season of harvest. Many places in the world have feasts and festivals in fall, giving thanks for the bounty of food that will be of great importance in the months ahead. But autumn is not always full of bounty. In warm coastal areas, late summer and early autumn can bring huge storms called hurricanes. Every year, hurricanes destroy a great deal of property. However, hurricanes do have a role to play in the natural world. Among other things, they help distribute heat and moisture that builds up in the oceans near the equator during the summer. No other kind of storm can match a hurricane for size and strength. Still, the blizzards that strike northern lands after autumn's golden days have their own special fierceness. Fortunately, autumn gives plants, animals, and people plenty of signals that it is time to get ready. Ripened crops, colorful leaves, and colder days and nights tell us to enjoy a season of beauty and abundance while we can. Whether we like it or not, the Earth's trip around the sun is carrying us into winter. Around December 22nd, the winter solstice occurs. On this day, the northern hemisphere has its shortest span of daylight hours for the year. Winter now begins, and autumn is officially over. Let's take a few minutes to review some of the things you learned in this video. In the following quiz, fill in the blanks with the correct word or words when you hear this tone. Good luck, and let's begin. 1. During autumn, days grow colder and nights . 2. If it is autumn in the northern hemisphere, in the southern hemisphere, it is . 3. Is a measure of distance north or south of the equator. 4. The equator is at degrees latitude. 5. Once every 24 hours, the Earth rotates on its 6. Everywhere on Earth has 12 hours of daylight and darkness on a special day we call an 7. Trees have leaves that fall in autumn. 8 is a green chemical that helps leaves produce food. 9. After autumn, deciduous trees in sort of a deep sleep for winter are called 10. Shortening hours of daylight trigger in birds the mysterious urge, or to migrate.